online. I am Ellen Torrey. I work at Multivarious. A lot of you right now probably know I did the shirts, the badges, all that jazz. Most of my day job, I guess, is also a fair amount on social media, though. I've got like Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, all that jazz. And it is a little bit different running social medias if you're an artist and not like a brand or just tweeting out into the void or whatever. So that's kind of what this panel is for. I'm curious, how many of you are like artists, like actively out there trying to build a brand and a presence online? Awesome. Cool. Well, I guess for starters, we'll toss out good sites just to have in general. People use Twitter a lot. Some people use Twitter as their main portfolio. I personally don't think I'd recommend using it as your only art site, but it is possible. Twitter's mainly good for networking and social media. Like if I go to PAX or any convention, what most people are going to exchange is follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. And if that's all you do, just even if you have to have maybe a personal account that you're following people back on and stuff, do that. If you are going to post your art on Twitter, make sure you're not flooding your media feed with a lot of other stuff. Like if a business is looking at your profile and they found you, what they're going to do is immediately go to your media section to see like what art you do, what you're producing. And if it's full of a lot of like personal photos or reaction gifs and stuff, it's going to be hard for them to actually figure out who you are and what you do. So if Twitter is your main place you're posting art, keep that clean of just your art. Now, if Twitter for you is truly more of just like a personal outlet and just to follow people on, then you can be a little more personable and kind of do whatever with that. In which case, I recommend having a link to a portfolio somewhere in your description. Also, make sure you have your email somewhere in that description. And this goes for any site you have, Instagram, anything. Make sure somewhere in your bio you have a way to contact you, because that's how a business is going to reach out to you, or anybody looking for like brand collaboration or anything. And it's surprising how many people lose opportunities because they just don't know how to reach them. On Instagram, sometimes they do direct message you, so you can check there, but I'm not personally a huge fan of that because it kind of gets lost. It's more professional to have like business email ... this is it. I guess I can't really show well on a screen, but you'll notice in your Twitter, you have like a location area and a place for a link. In that location area, you can type whatever you want. Like a lot of people do not type in a physical location. I have my email in that spot. I just wrote contact ... like ellentorrey@gmail. It's just utilize all spaces you have because it works. The link would be probably where you'd want to lead to like a Patreon or your personal website. And in the bio itself, I have a link to my Redbubble. The goal with existing as a freelance artist is going to be drawing from as many revenue sources as possible online. Patreon is the biggest source of online income I personally have. It's pretty big for a lot of people. It's great for artists. It's great for YouTube content creators if you're making like videos, comics, just digital art, anything. Redbubble is also a pretty big deal too. It's very easy to throw stuff up. Society6 is also an option, though I personally use Redbubble because it gets more physical traffic to the site. But a combination of all of these is good to have. My biggest site is Instagram. I think the community on Instagram is pretty chill. I started on Tumblr, admittedly, though I don't use that anymore. And I'm not actually sure how many people are still on it. But the bottom line is, I guess, so you're like starting out totally fresh, or you need ways to build stuff. Hashtags are probably what you've heard a lot, like make sure you're tagging stuff. And it kind of goes beyond that. If your goal is to build a big audience online, you need to be tracking like current events and fandoms too, especially as an artist. Like staying on top of, like, Stranger Things was popular a bit ago. Demon Slayer is popular now. If you are a fan art artist, staying on top of current fandoms and tagging into those tags is going to be your single biggest way of pulling an audience. Tumblr, admittedly, was extremely beneficial for this because a lot of fandoms exist on Tumblr, and it's how I got almost all of the momentum I have now came from Tumblr back in when Gravity Falls was popular. But I mean, it was like Gravity Falls, and it was like Percy Jackson, all those. And if you're making content for that, you're good. If you're not a fan art artist, then admittedly things are going to be a little more difficult for you, but you can still tag into popular tags like digital art, traditional art, sketching. Instagram in particular is fantastic for traditional art and stuff like that, or even just well-rendered like digital art and stuff. If you're not making fandom content, then you ultimately really just want to focus on peeking around, seeing what popular accounts you might admire yourself and like see which posts of theirs are doing better than others, maybe kind of get a gauge for what people are into. Unfortunately, if growing your audience online is your goal, you are going to be playing a constant balance between I'm drawing what I like for fun because this is what I want to draw and I enjoy it, and this is what's doing well, and this is what to give the people. Ideally, you find a merge somewhere in there of stuff you really enjoy creating and stuff people really like seeing. So yeah, my advice is definitely make sure you're doing what you like, because that's going to be probably your best work, which is the most important, but a little bit of pandering might be necessary. I have questions, but as for times of posting and consistency of posting, on Instagram, unfortunately, the consistency you're posting is pretty important. I personally try to post something at least once a day, even if it's just in a story. The best way to go about doing this, though, is it's okay to share work in progress shots of stuff. That's how a lot of artists at least approach it, is you'll have a fully finished piece you push out like maybe once a week, twice a week, whatever you can fit around your schedule, and you kind of fill the gaps with updates about like how the piece is going, or maybe you share blurbs of your personal life. I would recommend keeping these in your stories though, because people can get really finicky with their Instagram feeds itself. You got to be really careful breaking brand, which is its own other topic, is you are going to want to create a brand and identity for yourself and try not to stray too far out of that, or people who followed you for one thing are probably going to unfollow you for the other stuff, which is unfortunate, but that's just kind of how it goes. So like snippets of your personal life, like selfies or your cat or whatever, you'll notice a lot of accounts keep all of that in their stories. And it's also entirely cool to have personal accounts too. Like some artists like Cyrene or other artists you may have seen have completely personal accounts that they will occasionally share out, but that's where they put their like, the selfies and the personal stuff. And that's what I would probably recommend doing, because it's still fun. That also kind of goes with keeping your brand and image though, is if you are a business is the best way to think of yourself. If you're trying to establish a brand and a career online, you need to think of yourself as a brand. And for that reason, you don't really want to go out on your biggest platforms and be mean to people or tweet a lot of personal stuff. You don't want to be like ranting about your life and all your problems on like your main account. I mean, I don't know. Just be mindful. Also, be careful dragging companies, or some people will hop on and be like, wow, the animation in this movie sucked, like what were they thinking, or blah 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 blah. Guess what companies are looking at that? The companies you could one day apply to are going to be looking at that, and like the animation industry in particular is very friendly with each other. Like they're a camaraderie is the word I'm looking for. So if you're trash talking any one of them, they're going to be like, we don't want that negativity in this circle. Like, so just be mindful of stuff like that. Because ultimately building yourself online is going to have a goal of not only attracting people who want to freelance you, like as a personal artist, but companies too. I mean, that's all good. If at any point in time anyone has questions, though, feel free to like ask. I'm just gonna kind of be scatterbrained and all over the place for a bit. My other big site's Twitch. I find streaming has actually probably been another one of the biggest things that connects to just the growth of my community online and the sheer like size and stuff. It's a really good way to connect with your communities and like get a feel for like who they are as people. Like the top creators or personalities, be it in art or even game streaming and like you name it. And we kind of had a panel on this yesterday, so I'm not going to go as much into that. But they're, genuine people who care about their communities, and that's important. And the more people can relate to you as a person who cares about them, like they're going to remember that and be like, you are a creator I want to support. The same thing for me looking at other artists. Like artists in general should all have sort of this camaraderie, and it's cool to be like inspired by other artists and support other artists, and that's awesome. And one of the biggest things I'll look at when I see other artists I like is immediately I look at like how they're treating the people who look up to them. Like, are they responding to questions? Are they being nice? Or are they really like aloof and like blah, blah, blah? Like, once again, how you conduct yourself will play a big part in how people perceive you as a person in a brand and stuff. If streaming is the way you want to go to help build your social media sites and do that, the biggest thing with streaming is it's pretty easy to set up. There's a lot of tutorials for like OBS and stuff like that, getting it all ready to go. Having a consistent stream schedule is probably the single biggest thing, like biggest piece of advice if you want to grow a steady thing. And as an artist, I would encourage you to, how do I word this? Game streamers are like, I stream 6 days a week, and this is awesome, and I'm like going like full time. And if you want to be like a full-time art streamer, like go for it. I work full-time, so you don't need to dump all of your time. Especially as an artist, it's more important that you're enjoying creating and working hard to produce good art than it is to be like, I'm gonna grow just by streaming a ton. Ultimately, as an artist trying to grow your brand, the single most important thing you could do, period, is just get better at art. Like, and if streaming has to take a back seat for you to get your head back in the game and keep growing, or if other things need to take a little bit of a back seat, nothing will make your presence online grow more than just growing as an artist. You've probably also heard this, posting times on social media is different for different sites, algorithms like that. So like, I've noticed Instagram in this time zone for me, posting between like 6 to 9 p.m. It's definitely more evening is ideal. Twitter, it's either really early or really late. You're trying to hit around when people get on and off of work. Instagram is actually cool. If you switch to a business account, you can go back into your like back-end algorithms, and it will actually show you when the highest traffic to your site is. And it's, especially if your presence is smaller, you want to pay real close attention to when those times are. And like I said, if you don't know off the top of your hand, you can Google this information. It's usually updated. There's always some business thing that's like aggressively analyzing every social media platform and being like, you need to post at this time exactly. But you really just want to hit as many people as you can with one picture, because the more interactions that picture gets, especially on Instagram, within like an hour, the farther your reach is going to be. A couple quirks with Instagram in particular: if you post a picture, try not to edit that picture, like drop down and like edit text or anything, for 24 hours. If you really mess up, you're better off just deleting the picture. The instant you edit that picture, all of its stats, like likes and comment, all of that data is wiped from that picture, and it will essentially start off as new. Now, visually, it will still be there, but on the back end, it's gone. So, which is why a lot of people, like, even if they mistype something, don't touch it. After 24 hours, the algorithms have kind of run their course. If it hits, explore page or whatever, that stuff's done. At 24 hours, you can go in and edit away and do whatever you want, and it's not going to change anything as far as your reach. Within the first hour of posting, though, if you can get comments and stuff, comments increase reach. So if you're replying to comments, liking comments, if you are going to be really active with your audience, you want to do it within the first hour, at least for Instagram. Twitter, I know comments are also important. I'm not sure if there's a set time frame, but I would probably guess it's similar. You want the most engagement to be when you've just posted, which is why auto posting things can be helpful, like scheduling posts, but you still kind of want to be present when they're posted so you can have that interaction. If you can't, it is what it is. It's better to, post something out, period, than just ghost people for a week, which I do that sometimes too. But, oh God, there goes my train of thought. Oh, yes. So as far as comments go, you'll probably notice a lot of artists in their stories will be like, hey, comment on this last post, what character you want me to draw next, or, stuff like that. The whole point of that is to get people to comment on that post, or people will comment in the post itself, like, spell out this word for a chance to win blah, 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 or tag all your friends. And, like, that's fine, but what they're doing is getting more traffic, which is great because you can learn from that too. Posting in your stories and asking people to comment and interact with you back on them, or just asking a question in the caption, is a great way. Whatever gets people to comment is what will push that farther than even likes. Like, comments will go farther than likes. Likes are still good. And contests are actually pretty big on Instagram too, as far as just pushing your reach. Like I said, think of yourself as a business and think of marketing campaigns. So things like people do 10,000 follower giveaways or even 1,000 or whatever. And it could be as simple as a character, like an OC sketch request, or maybe if you're a traditional artist, you give away one of your pieces. And I've done a couple different types of contests myself. I think I found the one with the single biggest reach was actually the one I did with So Aesthetic, the t-shirt one or whatever. But one of the requirements for entering that was comment and tag a friend in this post. And that alone is probably one of the single biggest things you can do to increase your reach. Be like giving away this piece of art to enter, tag some friends in the post, and that's it. Maybe say your favorite art or whatever. Your goal is though to get them to tag friends in that post. That's huge. You can also do things where people do like the Draw Me contest, where they'll post their own pictures on their timelines and then tag you in it. That can also work. Also a pretty big reach. Your goal is though to have other accounts exposed to your stuff. And stuff like that does really well, actually. Like, especially when you're a smaller account, your goal is you can just shoot out art or whatever you're making into the void and tag, and people will find it. If your art is, very exceptionally good, people will be drawn to for that. If it's just fan art or whatever, appealing. If you want to kickstart it though, contests help. Finding the Draw Me things were pretty cool for a while. People still kind of do those. Finding other big presences online, like other big artists, social media, whatever. If you can draw fan art for them or enter in their contest or anything like that, if it's a streamer you really like, it doesn't even have to be another artist. You could just be like, I drew you, and maybe they'll share your stuff. Or if someone's, Piccolo, his webcomic or his Icarus in the Sun book will be coming out. He'll probably be reblogging fan art for that. So, things like that are stuff to think about. If you're trying to grow your brand, you want to, play nice with other artists. It's a little shameless, but it's fun. Twitter, similar thing, honestly. A lot of these concepts apply to all different things. With Twitter, talking to people can be useful. Like if someone's like following you and they comment something nice, like comment back, toss them a like, get to know. You can do a lot of comments. You just, pictures are what you want to try to avoid, like spamming people with reaction pictures. But talking is great. Following a lot of people, giving them encouragement on their art too, like, it's honestly just fun to also, it will help you be like more inspired to see how other artists are operating their own sites and communities. Like if you're a little lost, like, I don't know how my bio should look, I don't know what sites I should have, like just take a peek at other people you admire and see like what are their bios, what information do they deem is most important to put up here and stuff like that. And that helps a lot. Picking usernames is also something I get asked a lot, like where I got my username. Ellen Torrey is actually Elvish. It's like token Elvish, except it was Ellen Torrey, and I switched the A for an O. The biggest thing when picking usernames is that they're easy to remember and easy to pronounce. And when someone says it, they should be able to reasonably remember how to like spell it out and sound it out and find it, because that is your brand name. You can use your real name. Some people do that, like, like Katie Illustrations or like whatever. You want to try to find something though that will stand alone in search results, really. You want something that you can take on every platform. And most of you probably already have relatively established web handles, so that might be less. But if you don't have one, your main goal is to find something that you can get consistently. Like you want the handle on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff. Because the more consistent you can keep your brand, the more people will recognize you as that brand all over the place. And that's important. The biggest thing though I can say is make sure it's easy to pronounce and easy to remember. Like don't have some like long name full of numbers that someone like will not be able to remember how to spell. It could look really cool, but like if they can't like see your name and then remember it, it's kind of not gonna work. Is there any questions? That's a lot of talking.
Yeah, so working full-time in creating art full-time is a job in and of itself. So how do you balance doing that with the personal work and things that you post on like Instagram?
Yeah, so you mean like with my full-time job and doing all of it?
Mostly NBA.
It's a lot. That is true. I do work full-time, and some of you are also probably working full-time. I end up just drawing a lot, honestly, because like especially online, I almost post entirely like fan art stuff that I draw in my personal time. Very rarely do I have like a ton of like work stuff that I'm able to shoot out online too, because NDAs are definitely a thing. And it's honestly just a lot of sacrifices. Like, I can't even remember the last game I seriously sat down to play that wasn't like a 15-minute round of something. It's self-discipline, I guess, and you kind of gotta like have set times, especially if you're streaming. Like I try to stream 2 days a week, and that's that. And then like the other evenings, I'll try to fit in different drawing. Also, killing as many birds with one stone as you can is great. So like streaming, you should be working and creating art that you can share online. If there's anything you're working on like client-wise that you can share, like ask, and if they're cool with it, that can be cool too. Ultimately though, I just draw a lot. But yeah, that's all I can think of. Sorry. Actually, I guess we can go into less of the social media reach and more of freelancing in general. I already mentioned, definitely make sure you have your email on your site. If it helps you keep things clear, create an entirely different email for just your business. Gmail, you can make as many as you want. Gmail in particular is also fantastic because you can assign emails like tags and stuff and make specific folders and sort and list that way, which is almost necessary if you start getting like a lot of stuff. Like down the road, when you have a bunch of stuff coming in, you can sort stuff into like commissions, business, like personal, stuff like that. I personally do everything through PayPal. PayPal, you can create invoices and send them out. There are other sites that do it similar, but I've just had PayPal for very long and it's worked well. As far as pricing goes, that can kind of vary, but it's usually the biggest question is, well, how much do I charge? And the bottom line is, let's see, hourly for illustration, it can be anywhere from like 30 an hour to 150 an hour. I would say like right out of college, I was personally freelancing at roughly 30 an hour, and now I'm closer to 100, 150, depending on what the project is. And this also can depend on who your client is. Like if it's someone, can you draw my OC? I'm not going to be like, yeah, give me $700. They're going to be like, it's a dog. And I'm like, okay. So you can kind of take that into consideration. Like if Disney comes up and they're like, hey, can you draw us an illustration? It's like, hello, Disney. On that note, though, keep track of how long it's taking you to make stuff. This goes for art or anything. If you're making physical items, whatever, keeping track of your time is going to sort of help you ballpark what prices of your things should be. Because when someone comes to you with a project, you don't want to tell them your hourly rate and be like, oh yeah, like I work like, 75 an hour and I don't know how long that's going to take me, but, can we just see? Like, no, if you think the project's going to take you 4 hours, now I had to make myself do math. What is that, like $300? Anyway, tell them that will be $300. Like that is my price. If you work less than 4 hours, awesome on you. You made extra money. If you work more than 4 hours, you probably should have, keep that in mind for the future and adjust your time accordingly. But people will respond better to just a flat rate. It's easier to understand, and it will keep people from trying to like nickel and dime you for time. Like, did that really take that long? Really push that back. It also, it's just easier on everybody. If they push back, if you're willing to negotiate with somebody, like sometimes if I know someone's coming and they might have like a lower budget, maybe be like, this is my rate for that, but I'm willing to negotiate. It's better to show them where like your rates are going to be, and then they'll have a better idea than be like, here's $10, can you draw this picture? And I'm like, no. Don't be afraid to ask for those prices though. Like, pay attention to like where your art is, as opposed to like the market that's out there. It is like truly like 50 to 100 an hour is pretty standard for an illustrator. Like if someone comes to you looking for a full page illustration, I think the standard for a single illustration is, I want to say it was like 200 to 500, depending on, stuff. And this is such a variable because it really depends. There are resources online I would recommend looking at too. Like if you do comics, they're priced differently too. There is a book, let me see if I can find it, that's amazing to have, and it just lists prices of everything. It's updated yearly, and it's called the Graphic Artist Guild Handbook, Pricing and Ethical Guidelines. And it's on Amazon, you can find it, so it's Graphic Artist Guild Handbook. And every year they come out with a new edition, and this is like the freelance pricing Bible. It has everything, comic, children's books, single illustrators. I mean, the book's like that thick, and all it is industry standards for that year of what you should be pricing, what you can expect, and it's really broken down, like, comic book front page, dual page, single page covers, like everything. So if you are truly like ready to dive into freelance stuff and like you want a good background, like I would recommend. It's like $28, but it's thick. So I would recommend that. Invoices are definitely the way to go. You can just, shoot me this money on PayPal. I don't think I'd recommend that, especially for like legal reasons and taxes. definitely want to create an invoice and send it to them and get that invoice back. Like legally, it's more sound. It will make your own finances just better. As far as taxes go, especially if most of your income comes from freelance, like the way I do now, I work full time, but over half of my income is not taxed because it's all freelance online. You got to pay attention to that. That's like a third of your income might be going away to taxes because you will be paying both the 15% that you have to pay anyway, but also the part of taxes that your company you work for usually pays too. You will also be paying that. So you really need to keep that in mind because like one year I completely forgot about that and like I was fine, but like wow, I was hit with like how many taxes I had to pay. I was like, this is insane. And it was just because I wasn't keeping track of my income. Like I wasn't, like stuff was coming in and I was just like, whatever, like, yeah, I'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do that. And then I wasn't really paying attention. So even if it's like an Excel document or there's a couple financial apps like Mint and other stuff like that, QuickBooks, stuff like that. If your goal is full-time freelance stuff, it is really important to keep track of not only your time and where you're spending it, but the income coming in and saving part of it for taxes because, yeah, that can really hurt people sometimes. Also, writing off deductions are amazing. If you're a freelance artist, you can deduct a lot of stuff. No one works for the IRS in here, do they? Okay. The what? No. That would be bad. No. You don't want to go too ham, but like seriously, computers. If you're a digital artist, computers can be written off. Pens, paper. If you're working in game stuff, like you can, game consoles and games are technically all under stuff you need for your job. Like, you'd be surprised. Now, internet and stuff like that, you can't really write off. If you do have a set home office, you can write that off too. Like I just have a computer in my house and that's like not a ton, but it adds up. The biggest thing though is keeping track of like supplies you're getting, especially big electronics. If you're an artist, write off your tablets, write off your computers, all of that. Just keep track of stuff. It can help to have two cards too, two business cards. Just credit cards separately. One you use entirely for business, and one you keep for personal stuff. That just makes it easier for tax time to, you know, that card that you've used for only business stuff, you know, this is deductible. And especially if you're using a program like Mint or something, you can plug that card in and be like, all of this is deductible stuff. And it saves you from having to like go through everything on all of your cards and be like, okay, deductible, which is doable. It just takes a while. I think that might truly be everything I have. All right, any other questions on anything? That's cool. Yes.
What would the main differences be pushing a brand as opposed to pushing you as an artist?
They should both kind of be the same. Like, I consider Ellen Torrey, it's me as an artist, but it is also my brand. Like, it's got a logo. I'm registered. Ellen Torrey is its own business. On my taxes, it's an LLC. It's Ellen Torrey. And the biggest thing with thinking about it is a brand versus just yourself as an artist, I guess, is there's a formality to it in a way. And like, when I update my profile picture for somewhere, example, I change it everywhere. Anytime I get a new like background splash, it's changed everywhere. I have a set signature, like Ellen Torrey written out, and I just have it saved as a PNG, and that goes on like invoices, anything like legal documents, anything, DMCAs. It's not necessary. Like all of these could very easily be done with just your own name and stuff too. But there's a cohesiveness, and I guess it really just looks a little more professional. And it might also help you think of stuff like what's on brand versus off brand. Like if you're an artist and producing stuff, I wouldn't want to be, you know, on my personal stuff is just me drawing stuff. I might also share like a picture of my cat and like some art and like a selfie and all that. And if it's a brand, like you're thinking more like, this is Ellen Torrey. Ellen Torrey draws stuff, only art. I don't know if that helps, but yeah. Oh, business cards. Make sure you have business cards on you at all times. That's really important. Even if you're not an artist, for whatever you're doing, if like that's just important. I mean, like I've got business cards on me right now, and all they literally have on them is it's pretty straightforward. They have my because everywhere it's just Ellen Torrey, so it makes it really easy. My email and my real name. And then on the front, it's just like Illustrator and game dev. Just really simple and to the point. I guess tips with business cards, it helps to have some white space on them because a lot of times when you're exchanging business cards or getting them, you should have a marker or something so you can make a quick note of whose card you're getting. They might want to do the same thing for yours, so it's helpful. Which leads me to another networking tip. Carry around a Sharpie with you if you're at a convention exchanging a lot of cards, because I guarantee by the time you get back to your hotel room and dump out the 100 cards you've gotten, any of them that you thought when you got them, like, I will remember this is important, you will not remember which one is which. And it can be as easy as like just writing down like Nintendo dude that wanted to email or something, anything, like bow tie dude, like anything that helps you remember which cards are which people. Write it down. Then, like, after you get it, just like turn around. Like, anyway. People won't be surprised. People will be flattered, unless you write something mean. Don't do that. As for networking in general, a lot of people get intimidated by the idea of what it means to network. Networking is literally just making friends. You should never walk around and network with the idea of like, oh, they're beneath me or whatever, like they can't help me in any way, or that's Markiplier, I'm gonna go hunt him down. Like, just talk to people around you, exchange cards. People can tell when you're trying to use them. Like if you're just surrounded by someone who's like, anyway, people will tell, but that shouldn't be your goal. The biggest thing with networking is literally just making as many friends as you can in the area where you exist, work, fellow artists, streamers, whatever. If you're doing video game art, you want to make friends with streamers who stream games or other game companies, especially like indie stuff. And then, you know, down the road, maybe they'll need help and you can help them out, or maybe you'll need help and you can help them out. And if you don't know what to talk about when you meet somebody, ask them what they do. Always talk about them, not yourself. Don't walk up to somebody and sales pitch yourself. Walk up to somebody and ask them what they do and get genuinely curious about them. That's like easy networking 101. Get someone else to talk about themselves and you don't even have to worry about it. Especially if you want to give someone your card. Like if you see someone specifically you are interested in networking with, like if you're a game company and you're trying very specifically to network with like maybe a publisher or something, and you're like, I really want to make that connection, but how do I just walk up and be like, take my card? No, you walk up and you're just like, hey, you know, like, what do you guys do? Like, I'm a big fan, blah, blah, blah. And then ask them for their business card. And if they have one, you could be like, thank you. Would you like one as well? And they're like, oh, yes. Anyway. Stuff like that. So just be cool. Bottom line is just be yourself and draw and have fun. That's pretty much it. Don't be a dick. Do good, die great. We're done. I don't know if we're actually done. I don't know what time it is. We got like 7 minutes left. All right, seriously, any questions at all? Come on, guys. Don't be scared.
Sold at conventions, and do you have like tips for doing that for like the first time?
Ironically, I've done it once because I had a booth here at GDEX like last year. I personally don't because full-time job, streaming, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know when I would travel at conventions. Fireball Press is great for prints. There is one locally, actually, and you can get like tons of prints for probably the cheapest price around. Maybe not the cheapest, but great quality. They're great people. Yeah. General tips, I ended up getting like these like wire crate thingies that I snapped together. It was a pain in the butt. I've seen other artists where they just have like piping and they just clip all their pictures up and like hang them vertically like all together. That looked way easier to set up. I recommend looking at that. Organization. I ended up getting a big, like 11 by 17 binder and sliding all of my prints in that way with like little label tabs. And then when people are like, hey, I want like, give me that Sasuke, and you're just like, keeping track of like what merch is selling. Enamel pins are really popular, but they're also a pretty big financial investment. So I'd say Prints, good. Stickers, good. If you want to maybe just get, there are some companies, I can't think of any off the top of my head, that do smaller runs of pins. Like you can get like just like 10 pins for like $50 or something like that, or less than that. Anyway, smaller quantities. Keep in mind, like see what people want and then fill up. I would recommend doing local stuff first, because a huge part of doing tables farther away is transportation, which I cannot answer because I just don't want to deal with that. A lot of people, though, do suitcases. It usually comes down to you need to be able to fit everything at your table into like maximum of 2 check-in luggages, because you're probably going to have your personal stuff as a carry-on, and 2 checked bags is already up to like kind of expensive. You're better off with 1, but like if you're traveling abroad, it's, you know, how much stuff can you cram? Some people will ship stuff to their destination, like to their hotel, like, you know, pack it all in a thing. I don't know how much that costs either. But yeah, fireball press is probably the biggest advice I can give there. And just being nice, having stuff easy to see. Some people have like little portfolios on their table that people can just like flip through, and that's nice. Prints, try not to have too many sizes of the same print. I read that somewhere. Like if you have big prints, don't have like this print in big, medium, and small. Like maybe not even have the small, just have like one standard size of print, because the more options people have, the more confusing it gets, and you're going to be losing somewhere. So, yeah.
What's the worst thing that's happened to you as an artist?
You know what an ante is?
Controversy that you've had to overcome, or
Boy, we're going to need another panel. Yes. Do you know what an ante is?
a what?
An ante? You know what call-out posting is? Mm-hmm. All right. God, I don't know where to start this. Several years ago, a very vicious group of children on the internet decided that I needed to die. It can be wild. The internet, it really opens up into a broader thing of the internet can be wild. There are people who, you know, will have very strong opinions of very odd things, or and just, it can get really out of hand fast, especially if, you know, in my case, people were very mad that I was getting popular, and they didn't like that. So it's really easy to lie on the internet, and people believe everything they see. Fortunately, though, that culture is kind of starting to die out. Like, you've seen call-out posts at celebrities and blah, 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 blah. And sometimes it's, like, warranted, like they've done something very bad. Other times, it's just like, they liked a picture I disagree with back in 2001, and they need to be banished from this earth. And it's just like, okay. In which case, my advice is just have friends. Kind of ignore people. The internet's just a wild place. Do what you like doing and just keep doing it. And yeah, stay away from Tumblr.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so I see a lot of artists, well, young artists, idolize popular artists and try to do exactly what they were doing, instead of being true to themselves. Do you have any advice on what to tell young artists about, like, following who they are instead of following who other people are? Even in terms of, like, I do illustration for books, so I want to do exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
But that's not the only way to be an artist. Do you have any comments or any advice about that?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it's pretty common. It's very alluring to be like, I want to be famous on social media. These people are. That must be what I have to do. And follow sometimes so close in their footsteps, you become just kind of like an echo of who they are. And that can also just happen with beginning, like learning art, starting off at art. You will tend to emulate whatever artist you're studying from, which is fine. That's how artists learn. The key to break that, though, is you need to be studying from like not just 1 or 2 artists you like, but like 100 artists. Like, you only develop your own style by consuming as many different styles as you possibly can. And then, like, you've already got a style. Everyone's got a style. You just need to teach yourself enough that your hand can be like, I like drawing eyes this way from this thing, but faces like this and bodies like this. And eventually, it'll all just kind of blend together. So I guess the biggest thing is like, don't try to follow someone else exactly because people will notice. You just kind of like draw as much as you can from as many different places as you can. And even if you're inspired, like making something based of like a specific piece, try to add on like 5 or 6 other pieces in that. Like I covered that in my talk like Friday, I think. Like just try to spread out your inspiration to as many places as possible. And there are a lot of different ways to do art. Like I do streaming and books and games, but there's also comic book artists. There are amazing concept artists that don't have a social media presence at all. Like they truly just draw, and they draw a lot, and they've gotten hired by a company, and like they're completely happy. Like you don't have to have a social media presence to do art, technically even. You just got to draw well. But if you have a goal where you want to be, look and see what the artists there are like company-wise, and you should try to like learn from them. Like if your goal is to be a concept artist at Blizzard, learn from them. Like look at what they're doing. And comic books, same thing. All that jazz. Yeah. My time's up. You're all free.